Hi guys, Scrivo here. Welcome to the Inner Circle. This week we are going to do Dark Angels 101, starting off with part 1, which is all of the unique epic characters that Dark Angels have got, the unique units, and then how everything synergizes, whether that's characters leading those unique units or which units I think, and I've seen people do with epic characters, like who they should lead. Right, let's get started with the big man himself. So Lionel Johnson. So he's a 300 point deep striking fight first monster who can go through walls. Why wouldn't you take that, right? It's very cool. Big challenge is he's lone op if he's within 3 inches of infantry of your own. So the best way to do that is for him to be next to a normal unit that he's going to be already kind of going and doing stuff with, so maybe like another combat unit or a cheap lone op. He's got 3 great command abilities that he does in his command phase, where he kind of goes, I'm going to choose one of these, and it'll be either giving an aura of 4 up, feel no pain against mortals, +1 to hit in melee, or if your opponent tries to within 12 inches do a stratagem, they have to take a battle shock test at -1. If they fail it, they spend the CP, but they don't get the stratagem. So it's really useful. I feel like a lot of the time I'm going to do the mortal wound aura, just because I'm relying on getting rid of some of those dev wounds. The +1 to hit's nice, but if you're going into an oath target or a lot of your stuff's already hitting on 2s, not so important maybe. Or if it's got rerolls. So right. So what I tend to do is I'll either have him running along next to something like Blade Guard led by Judicia, or Asmodai with Inner Circle Companions, or you just have him next to a lieutenant with a combat weapon, because it's the only Space Marine lone op and he's cheap, so he can do something. He gives you reroll 1s to wound when targeting something on a specific objective, so he's got something. He's got a reactive move. He's got a cool little toolkit as well, but also he makes the lion lone up without someone just being able to kill off the unit quite so easily. Because if they're within 12, they're probably within 12 of the lion, and that's probably the worst place they want to be. Right, moving on. Azrael, the Grand Master of the Dark Angels. So, not too expensive, 105 points. He's got a 2-up save. He's got a 4-up invuln. When he leads a unit, he gives them a 4-up invuln and sustained hits 1. That's combat and shooting for both of them. Really useful. If he's on the battlefield, he gives you a CP in your command phase as well. This is generally why he makes it into a lot of Dark Angels lists. So he's thematic, that he should be in your army, but also he's very good. And the other thing is his Sword of Secrets is a lovely beat stick that does some dev wounds. That is something people will not want to go near, and they will respect that. So they'll probably try to kill him with some shooting, or previously with mortal wounds. He has a Watch in the Dark, so once per game you can trigger a 4-up feel no pain against mortals, which now triggers against dev wounds, so really useful. And that helps him and his unit, especially if he's, say, leading things like Hellblasters. Right, units. So, Inner Circle Companions. When they are led, they become -1 to hit in combat and melee. They are also OC2 as a unit each, so I find him leading them becomes this big tar pit of -1 to hit, 4-up invuln, really good in combat. They're just going to be sticky. So your opponent then has to really throw a lot of resource into them to get rid of them. The very popular route we've seen throughout the whole edition so far is him with Hellblasters, because he gives them sustained hits 1 and 4-up invuln. So traditionally, if I was trying to kill Hellblasters, I would shoot them outside of their own range, so they couldn't shoot back on death. But if they've got 4-up invuln, half the time you're going to miss. It's going to get saved. It's going to be great. The other thing to note is his Watch in the Dark will trigger, if you say you had a big turn where you went, everyone's going to go overcharged, and you're getting all these hazardous tests. They are now hazardous tests that every one is 3 mortal wounds. If you've got a 4-up shrug against mortal wounds, you might not kill as many dudes from it. You never know. I still think you're going to lose bodies doing it, but it's nice to have that choice. I've put here Company Heroes. He cannot lead Company Heroes. They have not FAQ'd that back in, so unfortunately, no. That was a nice little trick when people did rule it that way, but no. The other one is Assault Intercessors, so him giving them sustained hits 1 on their big choppy chainswords Really nice, especially if they're going to say into your oath target that's on an objective. You're getting rerolls to hit, rerolling to wound with sustained hits 1, and they've got 4 pin ones, so they're just going to stick around. I tend to not like putting him with a combat unit as much, purely because I want to keep him alive with the ability to give me CP. So that's why I've been experimenting recently with him leading just 5 intercessors. So 5 of them is OC 10, put them on your home objective, led by him. It's a deterrent for just coming onto your home objective. It's enough bodies on it that someone can't do a 3-inch deep strike onto it. If you've positioned yourself correctly, they shouldn't be able to shoot and fire and fade onto it. And if they really want to deal with it, they've got to really commit, because it's a lot of wounds. It's 10 wounds on those 5 bodies, plus Azrael himself. And then it's just a bit chewy. I like it. And I think people may experiment with it. Asmodai. So 70 points, so nice and reasonably priced. 3 up, 4 up in Vun. When he leads a unit, they get to reroll to hit in melee. At the start of the fight phase, you pick a unit within 6 inches and force a battle shock test at -1. Really nice to stop these armor contempts, fight on death, all these horrible stratagems that just remove the efficiency of a unit, especially if it's, say, armor contempt, where you suddenly go, my AP's disappearing, now I'm a bit anemic. He's also got a strike and sweep melee profile, which I like the flexibility of. What would he lead? To me, again, giving full rerolls into something like Inner Circle Companions that have got a sustained hits 2 or lethal hits. Different modes of swinging, really nice. Makes them -1 to hit. Downside is they wouldn't then have an invuln because he doesn't give them one. But as a result, if you're then worried about that survivability, you then probably put them with Blade Guard, because then they have a 4-up invuln natively. Giving them 4 rerolls to hit is not bad. Alternatively, in Assault Intercessors. So again, giving them that whole reroll to hit, like we said about with Azrael, reroll to hit, and then if you're charging into a vowed objective or just something on an objective, you're like, cool, reroll onto wound as well. Nice. So great way of creating problems. Belial. So this one is a character that I absolutely love. So if you were like me and you bought the Deathwing Assault box when the Codex dropped, you've probably got at least one of him. So 2 up save, 4 up invuln. When he leads a unit, they get precision on crits. That's nice, but if you were having a captain lead the unit, you'd get a cheap stratagem now. And I think that's where he suffers, is that we're often going a Terminator captain or a Terminator chaplain will do the role of leading the unit for you better, which is a shame. He's also got at the beginning of the fight phase, 6-inch pick a unit, they get a battle shock test at -1. So again, removing those defensive kind of stratagems is quite nice, especially if, say, he was doing that and then you're smashing in something like some Deathwing Knights in. It's just going to cause a mess. Again, strike or sweep melee profiles, so I think he's really quite reasonable, but I do find myself still taking a captain over him, which is a shame. I think it's because the precision ability, which is his kind of main thing, it's thematic. It's incredibly thematic for him. He's meant to be the guy that goes and tries to take out the heroes. But I don't rate it still. It's just strange. Let me know in the comments if you've managed to have some success with him. Maybe I've just not been playing him. Like, I've not played him. I played him once in a game and didn't find it came up. So that put me off enough, but maybe I just need to give him more of a go. Right, you have him leading Deathwing Terminators or Deathwing Knights. So giving precision to Deathwing Knights can be really nice, especially, say, if you've got the relic weapon, so the Knight Master with the what was a flail, smashing stuff. Having precision on those would be very useful. So you can cause dev wounds and just outright kill a character. So that, I think, is where the value is to me, is that whole kind of, I can snipe a character out, throw some dev wounds in. If they don't have a mortal wound shrug, they're in trouble. Again, Deathwing Terminators, having them be able to shoot the living snot out of a unit and then just start off precisioning out the character, great, I suppose. I'd rather just kill the unit outright and the character, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've had more success than I with it. Okay, played him. Right, next one, Ezekiel. So 75 points, 2 up, 4 up in one. When he leads a unit, he gives them a 4 up, feel no pain against psychic attacks. Again, it's nice, but you're not going to be relying on it in every game. When he leads a unit, they gain +1 to their melee attacks, which is great if you're already trying to just throw lots of attacks into someone. He has a battle shock test ability, but it is in the shooting phase, and it's 18 inches, so you will line it up, trigger it so they're battle shocked, and then you can then charge him with his unit or another unit. One downside to Ezekiel that is incredibly thematic is when he's destroyed, all friendly units within 6 inches have to take a battle shock test. The only time I ever think this is cool is if you are playing the Unforgiven detachment and you really need some stuff battle shocked. But again, in the videos I've chatted to before, like I think the last one I was saying, I don't rate where you have to not be able to use things like stratagems on yourself. So being battle shocked always feels like a negative, even when it's not for that detachment. So doesn't feel right for me at the moment. So, but what would he lead? To me, Assault Intercessors feels like the natural kind of place for him, just because they're just going to throw in with him extra attacks. So if then they're going into your oath target on an objective, it's yet another attack. So if you've got a unit of 5, that's an extra 5 attacks. That's a whole extra dude. That's nice. Same with Blade Guard Veterans, just give them extra. Same with Inner Circle Companions. All 3 of them, it's basically just to give them the extra attacks. If you want those units to be more survivable, though, I've seen people aren't taking Ezekiel, unfortunately. Yes, that sucks, but you see people taking Librarians just purely because you want the 4 up in one, and that's the shame. So maybe if you want to use your Ezekiel but you don't want to play the less optimum rules option, just prox him as a Librarian for now. I don't know, when they give him a new model, maybe he'll get a glow up again. Who knows? He was great at the end of 9th, so maybe he's living for the sins of that because he was in every list. Right, Samael, 130 points, 3 up, 4 up. When he leads a unit, they gain advanced shoot and charge, which is great because you put him leading, say, Ravenwing Black Knights. So he also forces a Desperate Escape test at a -1. So you tag a unit that they definitely don't want to be in combat with you, and they have to run away, but at the risk of taking some wounds or being slain fully. He's got Plasma Cannon and the Raven Sword, again, another great relic weapon, but I don't know, I'm not so enthused. So he would lead Black Knights, so they get anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4 up on the charge, so you'd be advancing, shooting with their guns, and then charging and doing that, and it's not bad. Same with the Outrider squad, you could do that. It just feels like you're doing it to get the unit in as quickly as possible. I'm not always so convinced about him leading the Black Knights. Personally, I would prefer having them led by the command squad, but we'll get into that later on. So let's go to the next one, which is Lazarus. So 70 points. He is the master of the 5th Company. As we learnt a bit more about him in Emity's Edge, the novel, recently. He's got a 3 up save, 4 up in one. When he is leading a unit, they get a 4 up fight on death in melee, which, yeah, you're not spending CP on, but it's still 50-50. So there'll be games where it'll really work really well and it'll be really obnoxious, and then there'll be other times where you just keep rolling 3s. It's fickle, but it's very thematic. Him himself has a 3 up feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortals. A lot of people get very excited and then they realise that it's just Lazarus, so it's great, but only on him. Emity's Edge is a really nice anti-psyker combat weapon. Again, I found when I did try using him, you get him into combat, and the amount of times you actually see something that is actually a psyker and you're in combat with, it's quite uncommon, unfortunately, which is a shame. For the thematic kind of angle with him, though, again, it's the 3. So all these units have got normally they've got some survivability, they've got something that encourages you to use them with melee units. So Assault Intercessors, Blade Guard, Inner Circle Companions. I don't need to tell you why those 3, because I've done that a few times now. You could have him leading a shooting unit, but his whole fight on death thing is in melee only, so it's just you'd utilise it, but just not as effective unless someone's charging you and they don't expect it, and then you just hit them back, and they're just punching people. It wouldn't be so great if it's something like Hellblasters, but we'll see. Ravenwing Command Squad. So this is a very spicy unit to me. So 3-up save, 5-up Pinvan. They are OC2 because they gain an OC from having the banner. They have a Narthithium, which gives you the ability to bring back a model. The champion gets +1 to advance and charges, and they can do a heroic intervention for free. So that means in a turn where you've already heroically intervened, these guys could do it as well, because you can do duplicate stratagems if it's something that is listed for free. That was the change in the data slate, and it's very cool. I like the idea of these guys leading your black knights because you're getting the +1 to the advance and charge, so that's an extra 2 if you've advanced and then charged. So you're just getting those extra inches here and there. If you're then leading a unit, if they're then leading the black knights, you're gaining the OC. So even if you don't kill what's on that point, if you've got enough of your bikes tagging the objective, you're really gumming it up. And being kind of multiple wounds, like the 3 wounds, just tanky, can bring 1 back each turn. It's just a pain. Like, it's a tar pit with some good shooting, and if you've gone into a vehicle on the charge, you've got the anti-vehicle. It's pretty nice, and that's the only unit I'd really taken with. You could take it with Outriders, but I think if I said that to you, I'd be setting up to fail. I just don't rate it. It's physically able to happen, but I wouldn't take it. Right. Favourite unit in the supplement. The Inner Circle Companions. 3 are 90 points, 6 are 180. Same points as Blade Guard. Difference is these guys are OC2. They've got a sweep, which is sustained hits 2. They've got a strike, which is lethal hits. When they are led by a character, they are -1 to hit in both melee and in shooting. And when they target a character unit, they are +1 to hit. So they'll be hitting on 2s into a character unit. Very spicy. Who should lead them? Well, we've gone through this a bit before. Asmodai, give them the full rerolls to hit. And obviously the Battle Shock aura in the fight phase. As well, if you want them to be a bit more survivable with the 4-up Pinvan. Same reason with the Librarian. Yes, he gets the feel no pain against psychic attacks, but we won't go into that. Judicia for fight first, because fight first in especially the early stages of Prior Nexus, we're seeing a lot of very melee focused lists appearing, because things like UKTC's new map pack is very dense. I've played a game on the GW layouts as well, pretty dense, so having something that can be charged and then fights first is really annoying. I think that's a deterrent for people. Having that combined with, say, having the lion as well, so you've got these 2 scary bricks of fight first, people aren't going to want to come too close. Then obviously, if you wanted to take a lieutenant, you could. If you just need a cheap character to lead them and you don't have the points for, say, a librarian, gives them lethal hits, which means you could have the sustained 2 attack and have it lethal at the same time. So it's like with Azrael, where you've got the sustained. There's a choice, but I don't think it's that important a difference, really. It's like having both together is great. If you're rolling up 6s, they're probably dead anyway. And then you could have a chaplain, so +1 to wound, and once per game, shrugging a battle shock, which I think is nice, especially when we're going to face things like Tyranids. So when they do Shadow the Warp, and they hit you out of kind of phase when you'd normally be able to go Insane Bravery, this helps correct that. Like, if it's a unit that you're like, they need to have the strat on them, because I want them to have Lance, or I want them to have I need them to do something else and it's not there, or to at least have OC as well, because if you're not playing the Unforgiven detachment and you've lost your OC, it doesn't matter if you don't quite kill the unit. If you've got no OC, you're not taking it off them. It's one of those things I think it can matter. So right, Deathwing Terminates. What, I said Command Squad then? Oh god, I'm getting flashbacks. They took them from us, guys. Right. So 5 for 180 points, or 10 for 360. 2 up, 4 up. They've got the teleport homer like normal Terminators do. They ignore modifiers, and they are +1 to hit against the Oath target. You can take things like a plasma cannon and a cyclone missile launcher, so really useful stuff. They can have power fists, they can have chain fists. I still think you take Power Fists over the Chain Fists currently, because you don't quite see enough vehicles to justify them smashing into vehicles, and I wouldn't load them out for killing vehicles when I've got Deathwing Knights in the locker now. The one big difference between them and normal Terminator squads is you get the Watcher in the Dark, so you get a once per game 4-up Feel No Pain against mortals, so a great way of soaking up some tank shock, a grenade, or some sort of psychic ability like a Doom Bolt. So really useful. Helps prevent this situation where people just remove a couple of Terminators more than they should. Who would lead it? So to me, big one, Terminator Captain. So a stratagem costs 1 less, and reroll charges. For these guys, not so much about the reroll charges, because yes, you might want to be in combat with the punches. A Power Fist isn't dreadful, but I often find that you want to be shooting and then punching if you need to, rather than it being I'm always doing that. It just means, like, for instance, if they're shooting stuff, chipping something down, and then you go, right, heroic intervention, I'll do it because it's free, because -1 to the strat cost. It's a charge roll, you re-roll it, so it adds some consistency there. So there is that argument to it as well. Terminator Chaplain, giving them +1 to wound, so the fists, if they're going to something a bit more tanky, it helps remove that problem there. And he gives out a Feel No Pain 4-up against mortals, so you don't have to just rely on that one turn with your Watcher in the Dark. Alternatively, giving sustained hits 1 with a Librarian, with a Feel No Pain against Psychic. Feel No Pain not so impactful, but the sustained hits, because it works on shooting and combat, I think is really quite neat. The other one that I keep exploring is a Terminator Ancient, because they make each model +1 OC, and it's a cheap character we can slap on an enhancement, so what's not to love? Plus, you want an Ancient with a big old banner looking badass on the table. Right, Deathwing Knights. They've had a bit of a glow up since the balanced data state, so they are now, 5 of them are 235 points. They're 2-up, 4-up in bum. They're inner circle, so they are -1 damage. They've got the Watcher in the Dark like everyone else does. The Mace of Absolution is now anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4+, so they are 6, -2, and the swords are now -2 as well. Very useful unit. I like rapid ingressing a brick of them, led by someone, we'll go into that in a second, to then step forward, nice short charge, go beat something up, and just be a pain. Who would you have leading them? Right, it's the same before, guys. I hate to tell you this. So Captain, if you want a cheap stratagem on them, and the reroll charges. So even if you're rapid ingressing them, just to give yourself that kind of guaranteed charge. Not quite guaranteed, but you know what I mean. Like you're kind of poking the odds in your favour as best you can. Chaplain as well, +1 to wound. It doesn't really help with the anti-vehicle, anti-monster is unmodified 4s, but still, if you can push through some more, why not? Feel No Pains against mortals. Can't say that's not a bad thing. On the flip side, Librarian, giving sustained hits on them. It means that they're hitting on 2s. If you own into your oath target, suddenly you're getting some exploding 6s up the wahoozy, great. Feel No Pain against Psychic. It's nice. It's not why you're taking them. You're taking them for the sustain, probably. But the one I really enjoy at the moment is Terminator Ancient. So you drop down, rapid ingress, with him leading them, especially in, say, inner circle, where you can have an extra 3-inch to your consolidate and pile him. So you've got these guys that smash into stuff, and then they just wrap stuff. They get where they want to go. So 3 inches after you've finished combat can often be a bit short, I found, especially if someone's staying away from their objectives. But when you make it 6, it just makes it a little bit more awkward that you can't stop someone being tagged, getting onto a point, or just generally being a nuisance. And I think it's an interesting one. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what enhancement you would take if you were taking a Terminator Ancient leading Deathwing Knights. Right, Ravenwing Black Knights. Kind of touched on these briefly with the command squad. So they are cheap. They are 90 points for 3 of them. They got a 5-up in bun, 3-up normal save. They are OC2. So the minute you add that banner, they become, from the command squad, they become OC3. That is spicy. So they've got the Black Knight combat weapon, which it's alright, but on the charge, anti-vehicle, anti-monster, 4-up. So this is very much, I've got the vibe from this now, is I can see where they went, right, Deathwing Knights should play the way that we kind of designed Black Knights. They should be this go and bully vehicles and monsters. And there's a lore reason to that, right? Like, Caliban was essentially a demon planet that was being reined in by all the knights. All the beasts of Caliban were warp-infused creatures, so these guys were used to just going around beating them up. So it makes sense that the veterans are good at killing that stuff. So, quite exciting. I don't need to run through, but they'll be led by a command squad, or they could be led by Samael, so you could have advance, shoot, and advance, assault, and charge. I'm not sure I'm that fussed by him. I think the command squad on a unit, I value that more. Like, if I was going to, I like that more, because it's that kind of chewy tar pit unit, especially if you're doing company of hunters. But yeah, right. Now just onto the units that aren't led by anything. So, Dark Shroud. It's gone up in points since I did this, so ignore the points, because I've already spotted the one mistake there. It went up a little bit, because it was in a lot of Ironstorm lists. So this is a 3-up, 5-up in Bun, OC3, 6-inch aura of -1 to hit, benefit of cover. So it has stealth as an aura. Really useful. I think it's still got a place. We don't see as much of the ignore all modifiers as I was fearing. There is still a bit of it, but I think having that is nice. Next one, Land Speed of Vengeance. It's okay. It can shoot when a unit's within 6-inch dies, back at whatever shot at it. The guns aren't great. I have 3 of these. I have taken them once since the edition dropped. Unfortunately, there is better shooting units to take, or even the other land speeders. It's a shame. Thematically, I feel like it needs something, because the plasma's just a bit anemic. Like, you could take any other shooting unit that has plasma and it'd do the job better for what you want this to be doing. I wouldn't discount it entirely, because OC3 is still not a bad thing, though. Having a little unit that can sit there and just be like, I've always got a save against your shooting, is fine, but it's probably better. And it's a shame, because it was something that I liked putting in a lot of my lists in 9th edition. So, right. Ravenwing Dark Talon. So 210 points. It is a plain, 3-up save, 5-up invuln. It's got no OC. It can do a stasis bomb, so it can just stop a unit doing anything. The Rift Cannon, cool sounding gun. I tried it once, and it did nothing. The one time I took one to a tournament in the previous edition, it just did nothing. It's a shame. Very thematic, very beautiful plane. It looks very cool. It's got bits of like the rock on the top of it. It looks really nice, but unfortunately, I'd just take more other cool stuff. I'd take lots of dudes with swords or dudes with hammers instead. But thematically, if you're wanting to use a real Ravenwing force, it's okay. But I do probably think that the vanilla Marines planes do the job better, which is a shame. Then finally, we've got the Nephilim Jet Fighter. It's -1 to hit. It's -1 to wound if it's being shot at by fly units. It's alright. It's just okay. It's one of those units where I haven't actually ever owned one, because every time I've looked at the sheet, I've gone, and that's across 3 editions now. It's a shame. I think if you're playing Darkangels, even Ravenwing, planes don't really feel like they're part of the game for them, which it's fine. But on that downer, I think we should all just take Inner Circle Companions. So let me know, guys, in the comments, what is your favourite Dark Angel unit? Because I'm really interesting to hear, because I have had this thing since the Inner Circle Companions dropped. I was like, these are great. I love the models. They felt a little bit anemic initially because they only had AP1. And I was like, oh, they're going to do something. And they were more expensive than Blade Guard originally. And then they've just been given a bit of a kind of nudge. And I'm just in love. I may have 12 now. I may have a problem. You can always have an Inner Circle Companion problem. And I'm fully acknowledging I do. Right. And then what's next, guys? So at the time of recording this, tomorrow I'm playing my last game in the first round of my Tring Club Space League. So I took Inner Circle Task Force pre-balanced data slate because everything was locked because we were playing 3 rounds across a long period of time. I got to buy this round, so I've only had 2 games, which is not the end of the world because everything's changed. So I'm going to run through in the next episode about how those games went. The first one, I went into the Big Hunt, so the orcs that are all beast snaggers. Interesting game. Tomorrow I'm playing into Blood Angels, so it should be interesting to see. In theory, the Blood Angels should smush me, but it's a bit of a mixed arms list, so we'll see. And then as part of the Dark Angels 101, we're going to touch on Gladius build. So I keep mentioning this in the last episode as well. I've been building some Gladius lists just because all the changes kind of, to me, encourage you to want to have advance in charge, because you want to have a go turn. You've got all these cool melee units that can just blend stuff. You've got the lion that can just run through a wall and hit someone, so Gladius is perfect in that respect. And then I'm going to start talking you through my story, because for the LGT, so the London GT is one of the biggest tournaments in the UK. The last few years I've gone, just played the main event, played competitive Warhammer, gone, great, this is fine, sit somewhere in the middle of the table. Last year I lost a few games by like a handful of points, so there were 10-10s if I was playing teams, but I was very much like, if I'm not getting up into the top echelons, I don't really feel like I'm really chasing anything. And so I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter my position, so I'm going to do what suits me. My mind was made up when I read the pack for the narrative event. There's no requirements on you toning a list down or anything like this. It's about you bring a list you want to bring, thematic as heck, and you all get given a squad of intercessors. So everyone has 10 intercessors that don't interact with their army at all. They use that data sheet, that's it, and then you model your own unit. So I've made a unit of 10 Risen. If you check out on my Instagram, I've started to put up some pictures. I've done one guy with a plasma gun. Obviously, it's just modelled as that, but for the rules purpose, it will be a bolt rifle. And I'm now going to be slowly making my army themed around the fact that I'm going to have Inner Circle companions, I'm going to have the lion, I'm going to bring those guys that are Risen, because obviously that's what Inner Circle companions are, and things like modelling my vehicles to reflect that there is a mixture of ages. So my Predator Destructors currently are my Razorbacks with printed turrets on the top, because I needed to quickly get some turrets. Predators were out of stock everywhere. The one Predator I had didn't have a destructor turret, so I was like, cool, this is the solution. I have now bought 2 Horus Heresy Deimos pattern Predators, and I'm going to theme them up within the kind of the narrative, so we'll see that. So I'm going to be kind of each episode I'm going to touch on kind of my progress on where I'm going with this, because it's going to be slow grow. I'm going to have 2,000 points of Dark Angels. It's going to be a very competitive, solid list, but it's going to be heavily themed and look as beautiful as I can make it, because to me it's an event where you're still trying to win it, but you want to have the best impact. There is cool narrative swings in some of the missions. It all sounds really quite exciting, and a couple of the 6++ guys are going to be tagging along as well. So Jack Asher from the kids tables coming. I believe Lee Jones is bringing out his orcs for it potentially, which is going to be quite exciting. So I think it'll be a nice way to touch upon the other ways to play, and you can be competitive and you can be narrative at the same time. You can tell a story whilst trying to win, and I think that's something that I really always like to celebrate. Right, so until next time, guys, don't forget, if you really like the show, hit like below. Really helps with the algorithm, all that fancy number stuff that I really don't understand. Obviously, if you like the show, subscribe to 6++, because we really do appreciate people keeping up on what we're up to. If you want to hear the ongoing story of me with my Inner Circle lists, this is the best place to find that. Obviously, find me on social media. All my stuff's in the link tree that's in the description below. If you really enjoy the channel and you're already subscribed, you've already liked it, well done, thank you. You can join our Inner Circle. You can join our YouTube members, and with that there is tiers where you get to see stuff early. You can join our secret Discord, so we do genuinely let you join our Inner Circle, so it's quite fun. And until next time, guys,